My name is Emma, and I'll never forget the night that shattered my world. After working a double shift at the restaurant, my body felt like it had been wrung out and left empty. My feet were throbbing, my head was pounding, and all I wanted was the comfort of my own bed, or at least the warm arms of the man I thought I could trust with my life. I remember unlocking the front door, forcing a tired smile at the thought that soon I'd be home. The house was supposed to be my safe place, where the exhaustion of 12 hours on my feet would melt away. But that night, it was different. At first, it was the shoes that made my heart skip a beat. A pair of red heels tossed carelessly by the entrance. They didn't belong to me. Then, the faint sound of laughter floated down the hallway, soft, intimate, muffled. For a second, I thought maybe I was imagining things. Maybe exhaustion was playing tricks on me. But when I climbed the stairs, each creak beneath my feet felt like a warning. My chest tightened. My hands shook. I pushed open the bedroom door, and my world came crashing down. There they were. My fiancé, the man I had been planning to spend forever with. And beside him, tangled in sheets that I had washed with my own hands, was my best friend, the person I trusted more than anyone else in this world. They froze when they saw me. My fiancé's face went pale, his lips parted in shock. My best friend had the audacity to smirk, as if caught in some sick joke. In that moment, I felt every ounce of exhaustion, every sacrifice I had made working doubles, every piece of loyalty I had given to both of them, turn into shards cutting me from the inside. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. All I could think was, after everything I've done, after every sacrifice I've made, this is how they repay me? That night was supposed to be just another long, tiring shift at the restaurant. Instead, it became the night my heart broke and the night my revenge story began. Because they thought I was weak. They thought exhaustion would keep me down. But they were wrong. I may have walked in broken that night, but what they didn't know is that I would walk out stronger. And one day soon, they would regret ever betraying me. My name is Emma, and for as long as I can remember, I've been a hard worker. Life never handed me things on a silver platter. If I wanted something, I had to earn it, and that's exactly what I did day after day, double shift after double shift at the restaurant. It wasn't glamorous work. The restaurant was noisy, always filled with the clatter of dishes, impatient customers tapping their feet, and the constant pressure from managers who cared more about tips than about the exhaustion written across our faces. My feet ached every night, my back burned from hours of carrying trays, and my smile sometimes felt like a mask glued onto my face. But still, I showed up. I worked hard because I had dreams. Dreams of saving enough to move into a better place, maybe even open my own cafe someday. And I wasn't just working for me, I was working for us. Us meant me and Daniel, my fiancé. Daniel wasn't perfect, but for a long time, he was my safe place. He was charming, ambitious, and he knew exactly how to make me laugh after a hard day. We had been together for 3 years, and even though things weren't always easy, I believed in us. I believed that love meant fighting through the struggles together. He used to wait up for me after my late shifts, greeting me with warm hugs and sleepy eyes. Some nights he'd even cook me dinner, leaving a plate covered on the counter just in case I came home hungry. It was little things like that that made me think, this is the man I'm going to spend my life with. And then there was Lily, my best friend since high school. Lily and I had been through everything together. Late-night study sessions, heartbreaks, moving into our first apartments. She was the kind of friend who could finish my sentences, who always knew when I needed a pep talk or a silly distraction. She wasn't just my best friend, she was my sister in every way that mattered. When Daniel came into my life, Lily was there cheering me on. When we got engaged, she cried tears of joy and promised she'd stand by my side as maid of honor. I trusted her with everything, my secrets, my fears, my happiness. Looking back, I can see little cracks that I ignored. Daniel sometimes stayed out late, claiming he was with coworkers. Lily started making excuses to drop by when she knew Daniel was home and I was at work. They laughed at each other's jokes a little too hard, shared glances that lingered just a second longer than they should have. But I brushed it all off. Why? Because I trusted them. I worked long hours, and I told myself they were just filling the silence while I was gone. I believed Daniel when he said he was tired from work. I believed Lily when she said she was just looking out for me. Meanwhile, I poured everything into supporting them. My savings went into building a future with Daniel. I even helped Lily pay her rent once when she was short, because that's what friends do. I sacrificed my own comfort, my own health, really, just to keep the people I loved happy. Every night, I told myself it would all be worth it. That one day, when Daniel and I got married, when Lily stood beside me in her maid of honor dress, when we finally had our happy ending, I'd look back and think, every double shift, every sacrifice, it was all worth it. But I was wrong. So painfully, devastatingly wrong. Because while I was sweating at the restaurant, taking orders from rude customers and scrubbing tables long after closing time, they were building something behind my back. Something I never imagined. I had no idea that the two people I trusted the most, my fiancé and my best friend, would be the very same people to betray me in the cruelest way possible. At first, I didn't notice the changes. Or maybe I noticed them, but chose not to see them for what they really were. Daniel started coming home later than usual. He used to text me little updates, or at least send a heart emoji to let me know he was thinking about me. But then, his messages grew shorter, colder. Sometimes hours would pass without a reply, and when I finally got one, it would be something like, busy. Talk later. I told myself he was just stressed. Work could do that to anyone, right? But then Lily, she started acting differently too. Lily had always been my safe space. When I needed to vent, she was the first person I called. But suddenly, our conversations felt off. She asked me more about Daniel than about me. What's he been up to these days? Does he ever talk about me when you two are alone? At first, I thought she was joking. Lily had always been playful. But sometimes, her tone carried something else, curiosity mixed with something sharper, something I couldn't quite place. There was one night I'll never forget. I'd finished a long shift, and Daniel had told me he was too tired to wait up for me. But when I walked into the house, I noticed the faint smell of perfume that wasn't mine. I brushed it off as maybe one of my coworkers' scents lingering on my clothes. But then I saw it again. A lipstick-stained coffee mug on the counter. Not my shade. Not mine. I asked Daniel about it, and he laughed it off. You're imagining things, Emma. You're so tired, you don't even know it's yours anymore. I let it go. Because when you love someone, you want to believe them. Still, little things started to stack up. Daniel began avoiding eye contact when I asked about his nights. He'd jump if his phone buzzed while we were together, snatching it up before I could even glance at the screen. And Lily, she became strangely territorial. She'd make comments like, "You're lucky Daniel puts up with your crazy hours," or, if I were him, "I'd want more of your time." It stung, but I laughed it off. I told myself she didn't mean it. That maybe she was just jealous of our relationship because she hadn't been in one for a while. The three of us used to spend time together, dinner nights, movie marathons. But slowly, I noticed that Daniel and Lily had their own private jokes. They'd exchange glances and laugh, leaving me out of the loop. Sometimes, I'd walk into the room and feel like I was interrupting something. One afternoon, I came home earlier than expected. Daniel wasn't supposed to be there, but his car was parked in the driveway. And inside, I heard voices, his and Lily's. They were sitting on the couch, close, talking in hushed tones. When they saw me, they jumped apart like guilty children caught doing something wrong. "Emma," Lily said too brightly. "We were just talking about the wedding plans." But their faces told a different story. I remember standing there, my stomach tightening, my chest heavy. Something was wrong. I knew it. But every time I tried to confront them, Daniel would brush it off with irritation, and Lily would laugh like I was being paranoid. "You work too much, Emma," Daniel said once, his voice sharp. "Maybe if you spent less time at that restaurant, you wouldn't be making up stories in your head." Those words cut me. Because I wasn't working for myself. I was working for us, for the future we were supposed to share. But instead of gratitude, all I got was suspicion. Distance. Lies. And deep down, even though I didn't want to admit it, a voice inside me whispered, "They're hiding something from you." I pushed it away. I didn't want to believe that the two people I loved most could betray me. So I buried the doubts, ignored the signs, and told myself I was just tired. But I wasn't tired. I was blind. And soon, the truth would hit me harder than any double shift ever could. It was a Friday night, and I had just finished yet another double shift at the restaurant. My uniform smelled like grease and coffee, my hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and all I wanted was to collapse into bed. The streets were quiet as I walked home, the city lights blurring through my exhaustion. I remember thinking, at least I'll get to see Daniel tonight. Maybe he'll have ordered takeout, maybe we can just watch something stupid on TV together. That thought was the only thing pushing my heavy legs forward. But the moment I stepped through the front door, something felt wrong. The house was too quiet. Normally, Daniel would be on the couch, TV humming in the background, or at least music playing softly from his phone. But that night, there was silence. Then I saw them, a pair of red heels sitting carelessly by the entrance. My heart skipped a beat. They weren't mine. I knew every pair of shoes I owned, and those belonged to Lily. A chill ran down my spine. I set my bag down slowly, my fingers trembling. I told myself there had to be an explanation. Maybe she'd stopped by, maybe they were just hanging out waiting for me. But deep down, that small voice inside me, the one I had been ignoring for weeks, screamed that this was the moment I'd been dreading. As I moved further into the house, I noticed a half-empty wine glass on the counter. Lipstick smeared along the rim. That same unfamiliar shade I'd seen before. Then I heard it. A muffled laugh. Daniel's low voice, followed by Lily's giggle. My chest tightened. I forced myself to climb the stairs, each creak of the wood echoing like a warning drum. My hands shook as I reached the bedroom door, my mind torn between denial and certainty. And then, I pushed the door open. What I saw will forever be burned into my memory. Daniel was in our bed, the place where we'd planned our future, whispered our secrets, and dreamed about our wedding. And beside him, under the same sheets, was Lily. They froze when they saw me. Daniel's eyes widened in shock, his mouth opening, but no words coming out. Lily had the audacity to smirk, as if this was some kind of sick joke. For a moment, the world stood still. My ears rang, my chest ached, my vision blurred with hot tears. I wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse right there. But instead, I just stood frozen, my voice trembling as I whispered, "Daniel." "Lily, how could you?" Daniel scrambled, pulling the blanket up as if that would cover the truth. "Emma, it's not what it looks like," he stammered. "Not what it looks like." The oldest, weakest excuse in the book. Lily tilted her head, her smile sharp and cruel. "Why are you so surprised, Emma? You're never around. You're always at that restaurant, working yourself to death. What did you expect? That Daniel would just sit around waiting for you?" Her words sliced through me. She was blaming me. As if my hard work, the sacrifices I made for both of them, justified their betrayal. Daniel buried his face in his hands, muttering something about being drunk, about it being a mistake. But his silence, his cowardice, was louder than any excuse. I felt something inside me break. The man I loved, the woman I trusted more than anyone, had chosen this. They had chosen each other over me. I couldn't breathe. My legs gave out, and I stumbled backward into the hallway. My tears blurred everything, and yet the image of them, together in my bed, was crystal clear in my mind. Daniel reached out, calling my name. "Emma, wait, please, let me explain." But I didn't let him finish. I turned and ran. Down the stairs, out the door, into the cold night air. My chest heaved, my body trembling, my heart shattered. I walked for hours, aimlessly, until the streets were empty and the night turned to dawn. Every step was heavy, every breath painful. All I could hear were Lily's mocking words and see Daniel's guilty face. Everything I had believed in, the love I thought I had, the friendship I cherished, was gone in an instant. That night, I felt like the weakest, most broken version of myself. But what I didn't know then was that this moment, this betrayal, would be the fire that would forge me into something stronger. They thought they had broken me. But they had only awakened a part of me I didn't know existed, the part that was ready for revenge. I don't remember how long I walked that night. The streets blurred past me, neon signs, empty sidewalks, the distant hum of cars, but I barely saw any of it. All I felt was the hollow ache in my chest, like someone had carved out my heart and left nothing but raw pain behind. By the time I finally stopped, I was sitting on a cold park bench, hugging myself against the chill of the early morning air. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I couldn't bring myself to look at it. I already knew who it was. Daniel. Sure enough, when I finally pulled the phone out, there were dozens of messages. Emma, please, just come back. I can explain. It didn't mean anything, I swear. I love you. Don't throw this away over one mistake. One mistake. That's what he called it. And Lily? She didn't bother texting me at all. The silence from her was somehow louder than Daniel's desperate words. I stared at the screen until the words blurred together, my tears making little rivers down my cheeks. I wanted to scream, to smash the phone into the ground, to erase every memory of the two of them. But I couldn't. I just sat there, broken, replaying the scene in my head again and again. Eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. I must have dozed off, because when I opened my eyes, the sun was rising. Birds chirped cheerfully, mocking the chaos inside me. I dragged myself back home, though every step felt like walking into a battlefield. The house looked the same from the outside, but to me, it was ruined. Tainted. No longer a home, but a crime scene. Daniel was waiting at the door, his eyes bloodshot, his hair a mess. He looked like he hadn't slept either. Emma, he said, reaching for me. Please, let's talk. I stepped back, avoiding his touch. Talk? About what, Daniel? About how you and my best friend decided to destroy me. He flinched, his jaw tightening. It wasn't like that. You don't understand. Don't, I cut him off, my voice shaking but firm. Don't insult me with excuses. I saw you. I saw her. There's nothing to explain. For a moment, his mask slipped, and I saw frustration flash across his face. What was I supposed to do, Emma? You're never here. You're always at that restaurant, working yourself to the bone. I felt alone. His words hit me like a slap. He was blaming me, as if my long hours, my sacrifices, were a burden instead of a gift. I laughed bitterly, though it came out more like a sob. You felt alone? So you decided to crawl into bed with my best friend? That's your solution. Daniel didn't answer. He just stood there, guilt and anger warring in his expression. And in that silence, I realized something important. He wasn't sorry for betraying me. He was sorry he got caught. I pushed past him, heading inside. The house smelled faintly of wine and perfume, and the sight of our bed upstairs made my stomach churn. I grabbed a duffel bag and began shoving clothes into it. Emma, wait, Daniel pleaded from the doorway. You're overreacting. We can fix this. I spun around, my hands trembling with rage. Overreacting? You destroyed my trust, Daniel. You destroyed us. There's no fixing that. He reached for me again, but I yanked my arm away. This is over, I whispered, my voice breaking. We're over. And with that, I walked out. I stayed with a coworker for the next few days, trying to hold myself together. The restaurant became my escape. At least there, the chaos made sense. Orders came in, food went out, customers complained, tips were counted. It was exhausting, but it was predictable. Unlike my life outside those walls. Lily never reached out. Not once. That silence, that lack of remorse, cut deeper than any words could have. She wasn't just my best friend, she was supposed to be my sister. And she had chosen Daniel, chosen betrayal, without a second thought. But as the days passed, something inside me began to shift. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but beneath it, another feeling started to grow. Anger. Not the kind that makes you scream or throw things, but the cold, focused anger that demands justice. I had given Daniel and Lily everything, my time, my loyalty, my trust. And they had repaid me by shattering my world. No, they weren't going to walk away from this without consequences. For the first time since that night, I looked at myself in the mirror and felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in days. Strength. They thought they had broken me. But they were about to learn that I was far stronger than they ever imagined. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. This was the beginning of my revenge. Heartbreak leaves you with two choices: collapse or rebuild. For the first week after the betrayal, I collapsed. I cried until my eyes burned, replayed that awful night in my head until I thought I'd go insane. But eventually, the tears dried up. And when they did, something colder, sharper, and far more dangerous took their place. I didn't want pity. I didn't want apologies. I wanted justice. Daniel and Lily had humiliated me. They thought I'd just walk away quietly, leaving them to live happily ever after in the ruins of my trust. But they underestimated me. I knew both of them better than they realized. I knew their habits, their weaknesses, their blind spots. And as much as it hurt, I could use that knowledge to dismantle everything they thought they'd gained at my expense. Daniel had always fancied himself business-minded. He wasn't rich, not by any means, but he had a small side hustle, a little online trading business he was proud of. He used my laptop sometimes to check his accounts, and though I never paid much attention before, now I wished I had. Luckily, I wasn't locked out. We'd shared so many passwords over the years: Netflix, Wi-Fi, even online banking when we split bills. And Daniel? He wasn't exactly creative with his passwords. A few guesses, and I was in. I didn't touch the money. Not yet. That would have been too obvious. Instead, I started gathering screenshots of transactions, records of his business deals, every little detail. The more I dug, the more I realized Daniel wasn't as clever as he thought. He cut corners. He exaggerated profits. And he owed money a lot more than he'd ever admitted to me. I stored every file, every screenshot, in a private folder labeled simply, Insurance. Lily worked at a boutique downtown. She wasn't exactly financially responsible either. I'd lent her money before, remember? Money she never fully paid back. Now, watching her Instagram stories, I realized she'd been splurging lately: fancy dinners, new clothes, even a weekend getaway that I was pretty sure Daniel had paid for. It was obvious. She was enjoying her new upgrade in life. But what she didn't realize was how fragile it all was. I started small. When Daniel texted me again, begging for another chance, I pretended to soften. I didn't forgive him, not really, but I let him think I might. I told him I just needed time. That was enough to keep him from cutting me off completely. And while he thought I was processing, I was actually observing. Tracking his words, noting his mistakes. Meanwhile, I made a point of bumping into Lily. I didn't scream at her, didn't accuse her. No, I smiled tightly, asked how she was doing, pretended I was holding it together. It threw her off. I could see the unease in her eyes. Because guilt hates silence. It festers. It didn't take long to discover Daniel's fatal flaw: his business relied on investors. Small-time, local people who trusted him with their savings, expecting big returns. And Lily? She had started bragging to mutual friends, no less, about how stable her new relationship was, how Daniel was such a provider. I realized something. Their entire foundation was built on lies and borrowed money. That was their weak point. And I was going to hit it where it hurt the most: their wallets. I didn't want a screaming confrontation. That would have given them power, made me look bitter. No, I wanted precision. So, I put my plan in motion. Firstly, I exposed Daniel's lies. I created a neat little package of all his shady business records, screenshots, and inconsistencies. With a carefully written anonymous email, I sent it to every single one of his investors. If they didn't pull out, they'd at least start asking questions Daniel couldn't answer. Also, Daniel had a loan he'd been hiding. Guess whose name he'd once used as a guarantor? Mine. With the evidence I had, I contacted the bank and clarified, firmly and legally, that I would no longer be attached to his debts. Suddenly, Daniel was alone with his mountain of financial problems. As for Lily's job, this part was almost too easy. Lily's boutique had a strict policy against inappropriate conduct damaging their brand. A few anonymous tips about her relationship with a client's fiancé, with photo evidence I conveniently had from social media, made their way to her boss. Within a week, Lily was unemployed. I didn't sit back quietly either. Oh no, I made sure word got around. Our friends, our families, even mutual acquaintances soon learned exactly what Daniel and Lily had done. Not from me directly. But let's just say screenshots have a way of spreading quickly when a friend of a friend gets hold of them. Daniel's investors pulled out. Lily's savings dwindled. And the shiny little life they thought they had built together? It began to crumble, piece by piece. And then came the sweetest part, watching them turn on each other. At first, they clung together, united by their shared betrayal. But when the money dried up, when the judgment from others grew louder, the cracks in their stolen relationship began to show. Daniel, bitter and broke, lashed out at Lily for losing her job. Lily, humiliated and unemployed, snapped back at Daniel for failing to provide the stable life he had promised. Their love, built on lies and selfishness, couldn't survive the pressure. I didn't need to be there to witness the fights. Friends told me enough. Neighbors heard shouting matches through thin apartment walls. Their once secret affair had turned into an ugly, public disaster. The best part? I never confronted them. I never shouted, never begged for answers, never gave them the satisfaction of seeing me broken. Instead, I lived well. I focused on my work, saved my money, started taking small steps toward the dream I had shelved for so long, opening my own cafe. Every time Daniel tried to reach out, now with messages full of anger instead of apologies, I ignored him. Every time Lily's number popped up, I let it ring. Through it all, I never said a word. I didn't confront them. I didn't send angry texts. I didn't even acknowledge their attempts to blame me. I just lived my life. Quietly, steadily, better. Because nothing is louder than silence when you're winning. And slowly, inevitably, they realized they hadn't just lost me. They had destroyed themselves. Looking back now, it still feels surreal. The way my life shattered in one night. The way the two people I trusted most cut me so deeply. For a long time, I asked myself, why me? Why did they do it? But I've come to realize the why doesn't matter. People betray because they are selfish, because they are weak, because they think they can get away with it. It had nothing to do with me, or how hard I worked, or how much I loved them. That was their choice. And their choices destroyed them. When I opened my cafe, I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because it was something I had always wanted. But I can't deny that every latte I poured, every pastry I set out in the display case, felt like a quiet victory. I had turned my heartbreak into fuel, my betrayal into strength, my pain into purpose. And that's something Daniel and Lily will never understand. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification button for more revenge stories.